give Americans higher electrical bills, more hurricanes, more floods, and more fires burning down our towns. That's a hell of a record for one president.
Hey friends, you've met me and Governor Inslee after a 15-minute epic battle, a Pyrrhic victory with Substack Live, but I have Governor Inslee as a Substack user. Next time we'll get him on Substack Live, but we're going to do this on Zoom, and we've just uploaded it on the left hook. Governor Inslee, as you know, was the fantastic governor of the great state of Washington for nearly a decade, a champion to combat climate change, and he's joining me trying to warn America about Trump's, I won't even say upcoming, I would say current energy crisis, the unfolding energy crisis, and furthermore, the disaster of climate change. As we're recording this, Governor, about an hour ago, Washington Post, I don't know if you saw that breaking news, came out with this report talking about how climate change is warming the waters, leading to unprecedented hurricanes. We just saw what's happening in Jamaica. And I mean, all of this is connected. The Trump administration doesn't believe in climate change, calls it a hoax. The Trump administration has gone all in these AI centers, which are gobbling up so much electricity, so much water, so much resources. The government is shut down. Two judges just earlier today said, Trump, you have to fund a SNAP. He says, okay, I'll partially fund it. He's throwing a great Gatsby party as there's lines for food bank. Electricity is up the roof. Groceries up the roof. Meat prices are up the roof. There's so much that is intersecting here. Where do you want to start?
Well, I'm starting from Rio de Janeiro, where I am right now, at a conference of other governors and mayors who are allied in building a new clean energy economy, despite the ignorance coming out of the White House. So I'll start at the top, which is these are difficult days because we got a president who's bound and determined to simultaneously, at the same time, with the same policy, give Americans higher electrical bills, more hurricanes, more floods, and more fires burning down our towns. That's a hell of a record for one president. Now, the most recent thing he's doing is trying to drive up our electrical bill. So his buddies, who gave him $1 billion to drive their competitors out of business, solar, wind, and advanced batteries. So we're down in Rio with the rest of the world that's moving forward on clean energy to reduce our cost of electricity, reduce these horrendous hurricanes and fires. So how's that for starting at the top? We got a lot to talk about.
So, you did say something. I want to stick on this for a second. How the rest of the world is moving forward, and it's very sad for me. I travel a lot, and I was talking to a bunch of friends over the weekend who also travel a lot, and that's what they're saying. They said the rest of the world is moving forward. The sad part is they see America as either an albatross holding them back or an obstacle, and they're maneuvering around America, whether it's the economy, whether it's energy, whether it's goods and services, whether it's the best minds in clean energy, in technology, and they're poaching them, and they see America in the rear view mirror. Can you tell us about where the rest of the world is on acknowledging the disaster that is climate change compared to America right now?
Well, there's two groups that aren't waiting for Donald Trump. One is the rest of the world. Europe, where I was talking to European leaders, they're moving forward. They're not slowing down waiting for Donald Trump. They're trying to take these jobs away from America. China is moving at a very rapid pace. Half the cars that are sold today now in China are electric vehicles. They're going solar like crazy. The rest of the world is not waiting for this ignoramus in the White House. Now, here's some good news, though. Half of the United States is not waiting either. I just came from a meeting with a group of 24 governors in the U.S. Climate Alliance. So we have 24 states that are moving forward on building clean energy jobs and reducing electrical prices in our states. So half of the states are moving forward. And one of the good news, I'll just share some good news for you. Donald Trump really can't stop state action on this. Look, I developed the best climate policies in the United States. It's called a cap and invest system that limits carbon pollution and gets people heat pumps and insulation, solar panels and the like. He can't stop us from doing this. We got to do it on our own nickel. but we can do it. So the rest of the world's moving. Half of the states in the United States are moving. And it's a shame that he's retarding this. He is a speed bump. We're going to get back onto this as soon as we get a new president and maybe a new House of Representatives next November. But movement is very rapid. And, we should feel real lucky because the technological achievements that are giving us these cheaper forms of energy are astounding. Solar energy, the cost has come down 95% in 10 years. 93% of all the energy that was built on the grid in the last year was clean energy. And it's cheaper. It's cheaper than coal. So this is really a good news story. Trump's trying to grab defeat from the jaws of victory, but we're moving forward in at least half the country, and the rest of the world's moving forward too.
Before we get to the good news, sadly, we have to talk about the bad news because, like you mentioned, it it's a self-destructive policy. It's manufactured, and that's what's so painful. Is because things don't have to be this bad, but he's choosing to make things worse by still embracing coal and these big oil companies and energy companies that know the truth about climate change. They've known since the 70s, but for profits and for greed, they refuse to invest in what clearly is not just cleaner energy, but also helps the economy and jobs. Some numbers. Household electric bills are up 11% nationally since Trump took office. They're poised to spike even further. Over 158,000 jobs have already been lost or stalled in the clean energy sector since Trump's election. And since Trump took office, gas and electric utilities have raised or sought to increase bills by at least $90 billion. Now, right now, I'm sure you've seen, Governor, all the polls that have come out one after another, that he's negative double digits on the economy, negative double digits on the tariff, negative double digits on inflation, now negative double digits on immigration. Let's talk about jobs because people always care about jobs in the economy. Because what's common to you isn't common to everyone else. They hear clean energy and their brain just washes over. They're like, whatever. How is that directly connected to jobs in the economy?
Well, you can't have it more direct because we've got thousands of jobs that are being created all over the United States. And these are jobs not just for rocket scientists. I think one of the misunderstandings that people think clean energy jobs are just, for physicists and higher level mathematicians. No, these are blue collar jobs for technical people. They're construction jobs to build the factories. They're the people with the ability to manipulate manufacturing systems, just like building cars. You're building advanced batteries. We have two companies in Moses Lake, Washington, building advanced batteries, simultaneously increasing the range of our cars by 20% and putting hundreds of people to work in a rural eastern Washington county that before now has been mostly an agricultural county. So these are direct jobs. They're real jobs. They're not sort of ephemeral wishes. They're real jobs that we can point to. And it is a shame that he's going around the country killing these jobs, and he's killing a lot of them in Republican districts. That group I just talked about has a Republican congressman that, he wrote a letter to Donald Trump saying, please, please, please don't kill these jobs. But he's doing it anyway. And this Republican lackey, because they're all lackeys right now, they're in a cult. None of them have enough spine to stand up against this guy. And so as a result, we're losing a lot of these jobs, and it's a shame. But as I've said, we have agency on this. We can bring our own state policies to bear. And importantly, we can get out and vote. Next November, we're going to have a vote. If we get the House of Representatives back into some sane condition, maybe we can stop this hemorrhaging economically. But I have found, just if I can share something with you, that people are much more impacted in their own personal lives by increasing electrical costs.
Yeah, I was going to get to that.
Just jobs. Because these electrical costs are biting people. Look, this guy came in, he wrote into the White House on inflation. And he says, I'm going to cut inflation in half by, in the first 8 hours I'm governor. And the bull coming out of that White House is just incredible right now. Prices are up 10% on average across the United States, double that in a variety of places. And he is involved in a massive, massive corrupt scheme to help his buddies. Look, we know what happened here. His friends in the oil and gas industry, they came into him, they met with him, and he admits this. They said, look, we'll give you $1 billion if you'll kill our competitor. Well, the coal guys don't like to compete with solar because solar's cheaper than coal. They don't like that. They don't like the competition. So they had a sweet deal. They said, look, Donald, we'll give you $1 billion if you'll kill our competitors. Great, I'll take your money. He took the billion and now he's trying to kill their competitor. Now he's having some success, but not total. So we can still cite some of these clean energy sources. I, as governor, approved the largest wind project probably in the Western United States. I've approved multiple solar farms to create solar energy. So, we're still moving forward. We'd like to go faster.
Yeah, and speaking about these numbers, for people who don't know, you said, by gutting clean energy, by radicalizing the base with disinformation about climate change, it's a self-destructive prophecy, right? Because these red states, and oftentimes not even say red states, but a lot of these Trump voters are the ones who are suffering. GM cuts 1,200 jobs at a Detroit EV plant.
Yeah.
Hundreds more at battery sites in Ohio and Tennessee. In Iowa, the policies have hit hard. He cancels clean energy grant to expand Syracuse factory. Fears over higher rates as Georgia moves to provide more electricity for AI data centers, folks. You have no idea how much energy these AI data centers are taking. They're going all in on these AI data centers. Meanwhile, people can't afford groceries. They can't afford their energy bills. But AI is going to save the day, Governor, even though climate change is going to probably kill all of us if we don't do anything about it. He ordered the cancellation of a wind project that will hike energy costs by $500 million a year. And like you said, the household electric bills have increased by 11%. Now, what's common to us isn't common to everyone else because there's so much disinformation deliberately done by the oil and gas companies and done by Republicans about climate change. Can you explain how investing in this clean energy, right? First of all, it increases jobs, awesome. It makes us competitive with the global market, great. How will that reduce the electricity bills that in the past 11 months have gone up because of this idiot?
Well, listen, it's in a sense, it's not rocket science. If you have two ways to keep your light bulb shining, one is dirty and expensive. That's the coal bucket. The other is clean and less expensive. That's the solar, wind, and advanced battery bucket. Which one do you think Americans should want to have? Everybody I know wants cheaper electricity. They want more jobs and they want their children to breathe and not have asthma. That's the clean energy route. Now you have to ask yourself, why would a guy be against that? Well, it's because he wanted $1 billion from these other folks to finance his corrupt schemes. That's why. And it's all over the country. He canceled $1 billion of investment in my state. And by the way, it's not exactly a coincidence that 90% of the cancellations have been in blue states.
Of
He's
course.
touched some red districts. We have a blue state, but we got a red district, right? So he's killed jobs in these red districts. And by the way, I've served in for 15 years in Congress. The members of Congress have a job to do, and that is to protect their district. These guys know that he is killing jobs in their district, and they're not standing up for their people. That's what a member of the U.S. House of Representatives is supposed to do. They're not doing their fundamental job. Now, they're not doing it now because they've been on vacation for 6 weeks. They're not even showing up for work. But they should fight for their people. And a congressperson who doesn't fight for their people, needs to be retired. Let them go play golf. Let them do what they like to do. But get in there somebody that will actually represent their people and get them jobs and clean energy that's cheaper. That's what Democrats offer. I think it's a pretty good deal.
The problem is though, they're reeks, like you mentioned, it's a cult, and SNAP benefits, it affects a lot of these Trump voters. Medicaid cuts that are about to come thanks to this big, beautiful bill. It's going to shut down rural hospitals. And like you said, these electricity bills that are skyrocketing, along with meat prices and grocery prices, it affects all of us. But they're completely willing to sacrifice their own base for loyalty and fidelity to their king and daddy, who is engaging in these self-destructive policies to fill his own coffers. He just pardoned CZ. his business partner, his crypto business partner, who was in jail for money laundering, right? And as this is happening, Governor, I mean, what's so terrifying about all this is I don't know if we have the time because we saw what's happening in Jamaica with the hurricane. With climate change, it's getting worse. The water is warming and it's going to get worse and worse. And this administration, in addition to not believing in climate change, is clawing back all the advances that you and others, when you were in office, made to, if you will, curb climate change. Because you've spent so many years on this, just to let Americans know, where are we with climate change? Like the DEFCON 1 moment, just to tell people if they aren't paying attention, because there's so many other crises.
Well, this is a very difficult thing to talk about because we'd rather talk about baseball. The Mariners had a good season. We'd rather talk about our kids, Halloween parties. We'd rather think about those things. But there's a scientific reality that is at our door that just can't be ignored. Where we are is that we are on the precipice of extremely disturbing events as a result of carbon dioxide. We've had to date sort of almost a linear increase of what we've experienced. We've had more forest fires. They've almost doubled in the Western United States. I've had 2 whole towns burned down while I was governor in Eastern Washington. We have an enormous increase in the frequency of floods worldwide that are killing people by the thousands. And these are all over the United States. I'm in Brazil. It rains a lot here in Brazil. But we just had these horrific floods that took these young people's lives in Texas at this church camp that they were at. We're having heat stroke deaths by the hundreds. We had over 150 people die of heat stroke in where? Seattle, Washington 2 summers ago, because we don't have air conditioning. We've never needed it before in Washington State. We have degradation of our agricultural productivity because of aridity. I've had to declare 3 statewide droughts in the last 5 years. We had no water for our crops in the last 2 months in the Yakima Valley, where I used to grow alfalfa, very small little plot of hay. So I know something about agriculture. I was surrounded by apple orchards. They didn't have any water to water their crops. So I would say that these are rather dramatic distortions of how we're living already today. But the troublesome thing is that while these CO2 emissions continue to increase, they're about 30% higher than they were before we started burning coal, is just going to not just increase these events on a linear basis, but potentially like a cliff. Because there are things that the scientists call tipping points, where you get to a certain level and all of a sudden you fall off the cliff. Instead of having a linear progression like going up a stairs, it just skyrockets straight up. And those tipping points, some people believe we're nearing them. We don't know where they are yet. New report yesterday came out about the Thwaites Glacier is unfortunately maybe doomed because of the CO2 already in the atmosphere. And that's a concern because the Thwaites Glacier holds back the Antarctic ice sheets that then can slide in to the ocean and melt. And there's something like 9 feet just from that one place of potential sea level rise. So we're already suffering dramatically in our lives. And this is real to me. I got 6 grandkids. They could not go outside and play in healthy air last August, 2 Augusts in a row because of the forest fire smoke. It's impinging the health of our children who have an epidemic of asthma. So I don't think there's anybody who loves health, going outside and playing baseball so you don't choke on smoke, who don't like to see your towns burned down or your towns washed away in floods. I don't think people think that's a really cool deal. So we need to do something about it.
But Bill Gates says this is just doomsday cult-like thinking. Bill Gates 6 days ago said, now, come on, we're not going to get destroyed by climate change. Your response to Bill Gates and his kind of stunning about face, as many people saw a week ago.
Well, I think maybe I ought to take Bill for a ride in my electric car, and we should just drive around Washington a little bit, let him talk to some people. First, I'd take him to the people in Medical Lake that burned down, and have talked to some of those people what it's like to have your house burned down with not enough insurance, by the way. Then I take him to a couple up in north of Cedar Woolley, up north of the Canadian border. It's a couple that got flooded, and they took a year rebuilding their house because this wall of water came through their house. And they had a party to celebrate their first anniversary. The day after the party, they look out the window, and here comes another wall of mud. They went right through their house, trashed their house. They had 3 feet of mud in their living room. Second time in 2 years. Then I'd have them go meet a woman named Jasmine, who I met. She was a 14-year-old girl down on the south end of Seattle, who told me that she was 11 years old before she found out that some kids don't have asthma. So she wanted to do research what was going on this. She did research on her own, and she found out that every quarter mile you live closer to the freeway and all this pollution, your asthma rate's like double. And by the way, her research was confirmed by the epidemiologists at the University of Washington. Then have them go talk to the people who are trying to catch fish, which are dying. Salmon are very important to our community in Washington State. And the temperature of the streams are so hot that the salmon could not get up the river. It kills them. It is happening now. So if Bill spends a couple days with me going for a ride, talking to those people, I think he might conclude that we should continue this effort. By the way, I think what he wrote was a little misconstrued anyway. He does believe we should continue this effort.
Right.
It was really a plea by him to start giving more foreign aid to people because Donald Trump cut off foreign aid. And Bill, bless his heart, has tried to fill that gap with his own private money. He can't do it because it was so much money, of course. But Bill's really trying to get to Trump to get him to take his foot off the throat of starving kids in Africa and Indonesia and other places. So I'm pretty convinced we should act. And by the way, so are the people I represent. We had a vote on this, by the way, last November. And it was really interesting. We had a bill that we passed. It's the best climate bill in the United States that restrains carbon. The fossil fuel guys, the billionaires, wanted to repeal it. So they brought it to the ballot. Bill actually helped us on this. He contributed $1 million to defeat this initiative because he agreed this was a good thing to do. Restrain emissions, get people heat pumps, get them solar panels, get them insulation. He was with us on this. So were the people. We won this 62-38. We gave him the biggest thumping, since Gettysburg. I don't know. We thumped them 62-38. The people are with us. They want action. They're confident we can do something about this. They're anxious and don't want to see their children's futures destroyed. I like being with the people on this one.
So final question, because I wanted to end on hope, and you've teased this out, and I just want people to, I appreciate you saying all that because I think, like you said, it's so overwhelming that we want to distract ourselves, right? We want to suffer from a failure of imagination. We want to outsource the problem. We want to think, inshallah, everything will be fine. It'll just be fine. But it's here. And I'm 45 years old, and I've been witnessing it, traveling around the world, the type of heat, the type of floods, the type of droughts. It's also impacting air travel. It's impacting, if you want to travel, well, guess what? Climate change impacts everything, food security. Climate change, refugees, border, immigration, trade. But you said that we have the numbers. A majority of Americans seem to get it. A majority of Democrats seem to get it. But we're up against not just Donald Trump, but we're up against the oligarchy. So I have two questions for you as to fight back. First, our elected officials. You said the Democrats could band together, right? So Democrats are now coming together and realizing, okay, we can band together and create these coalitions to protect healthcare. We can band together and come up with strategies to protect ourselves against ICE. What can Democrats do when it comes to being a bulwark against Donald Trump's death march, if you will?
Well, we can do in our state just what I've done. Look, if every state follows Washington State's leadership, we're going to meet our climate goals because we have a Climate Commitment Act that caps the amount of carbon emissions. We have the best building codes that require energy efficiency so we don't waste energy and with all the pollution associated with that. We have a low carbon fuel standard, which gives people less carbon intensive fuels. We have a transportation budget that gives people access to bike lanes and public transportation that is less polluting. We have systems to educate our children about this. We have soup to nuts. Every state in the United States can do that. And we have 24 states, as I've indicated, in the U.S. Climate Alliance. This is a group that former Governor Jerry Brown and I started 7 or 8 years ago that's been very successful. And every state with a Democratic governor, to some extent, is taking these actions. So we have agency on this. There's things we can do. We can do this thing in our cities. Look, anybody who's listening to this, you can go talk to your city council and figure out ways that you can do it on your city base. So we have our own, to some degree, destiny in our own hands. That's number one. Number two, we got to elect some new Congress people next November to take over the House of Representatives to stop this madness. So
Well, also
those are the two
Tuesday,
things we got to
there's an
do.
election. I'll try to get this up. I'll try to get this up by Tuesday. If not, this might come out by Wednesday. But we got an election happening tomorrow, folks, November 4th. So get some governors in there, get elected officials who believe in climate
We
change.
got two governors, Mike in New Jersey, Spanberger in Virginia. They're both great on clean energy. Go them out. They deserve it. And check out Climate Power too. Climate Power is an organization I'm associated with. We're down here in Rio spreading the good news. We want the world to know there's still intelligent life in the United States. We want the rest of the world not to become discouraged. And fortunately, they're not. We're moving forward.
And last question, the average Jose, average Jane, average Joe watching right now, what advice do you give them to protect the environment, protect their jobs, protect their electricity, and also, like you said, you got grandkids, I have kids, to make sure that our kids in the next generation can actually enjoy the things that we took for granted, like, air, water, land, fruit, vegetables.
That's really easy. Go vote and vote for candidates that are advance these policies. There's a lot of things we can do individually. We can, drive an EV if it works for you. You can, use public transportation if it works for you. There's a lot of things we can do individually. They're great, but we got to do things together here. And the way we do things together is through our democracy. So find candidates that are going to help you and your grandkids. Vote for them. Go help them get elected. Pound yard signs for them. Send some text messages for them. Get involved. There's no better effort in human history than this one.
Governor, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. Shamelessly promote yourself from Rio, sir.
What's that?
I said thank you for your time and shamelessly promote yourself and your initiatives from Rio before I let you go.
The world needs us. We need to be in this fight. We are.
So Governor Inslee is promoting America in Rio, trying to tell the world, hey, 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 not all of us have a death wish. We're with you. We recognize the threat. And also, you said climate power. What is that? Tell us about
Climate
climate power.
Power is an organization that's been very effective and helped pass the Inflation Reduction Act, which was so effective that Trump has now cut about in half, unfortunately, although it's still done some really good work. And they're continuing to organize communities around the country to really act on this. So I act as a national spokesperson for them. I love the work they're doing.
Thank you, Governor Inslee. I appreciate it. Stay safe. Tell all the folks in Rio that not all of us are ignorant and self-destructive and ugly Americans, that we're with them and the people towards, inshallah, a sustainable, healthier future for our children. I appreciate the time and I appreciate you engaging in the battle, trying to get with me on Substack Live. Next time I'll get you on Substack Live, but right now we got you on Zoom,
There we
sir.
go. It's all
Take
about
care.
the left hook. Good luck.
Thank you, buddy.